Listen, we are on location.
We are on location. Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Wherever you find yourself.
Welcome back to Faith and Frames. Thank you for tuning in. If you're hearing my voice, you're at least tuned in for this amount of time. So
you are officially.
We appreciate you for being here.
You're officially a framer / possible faither. Who knows?
There you go. One of the two.
One of the two.
So we are on location here in Greeneville, Tennessee.
G Vegas.
Hometown. At Blue Mountain Studio.
With Miss Jennifer.
Yeah.
Glad to have you.
Gonna talk.
Thanks for the space today, by the way.
You're so welcome.
Yeah.
Gonna talk about things photography, how she got to where she is today, and a little bit of backstory on who's behind her camera. Because I feel like that's something that always takes place with photographers. We like being behind the camera.
Yeah.
Rarely do we like being in front of.
Yeah, I don't like that.
But I think it's important
It is
to
important.
let people know who is actually behind the camera.
The character behind the lens.
There you go.
Maybe talk a little bit about the state of the union with photography today as well.
There's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack.
But first, let's thank our sponsor.
Sponsor for today's episode is none other than Animals West of Greeneville, Tennessee. Here at Animals West, your pets are our passion.
Yeah.
Our dedicated team offers personalized care, advanced treatments, and a warm, loving environment. Because at Animals West, every tale tells a story.
There it is.
Tony, Amanda,
Yeah.
and the crew down on the Newport Highway. Thank you for Thank God I messed that up. Thank you for sponsoring today's episode of Faith and Frames. Thank you for sponsoring these animals here at Motion Creative Media.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taking care of us wet, nasty pups. That sounded weird. Jared, meat and taters. Get us the meat and taters.
We let a bit of the cat out of the bag. We are on location with our guest. She is a photographer here in Greeneville, Tennessee. I would like to, because I always enjoy framing people up in the sense of,
Ooh, I see
I
what you
like
did
to
there.
know the story as to what got you started into this craft, photography. When did you get bit by what I like to call the shutter bug?
Ooh,
That's good.
that sounds cute.
So let's just start with I was a nurse by trade. And so I was a licensed nurse. I have my bachelor's in nursing and healthcare administration. However, I don't use any of that.
Nice.
I'm still paying for it. But
go you.
yeah. And so I have always had cameras since I can remember. Polaroids, the Cool Pics was my favorite.
The Nikon.
Yes.
Nikon Cool Pics.
Yes, the Cool Pics.
The metallic red one.
Yeah.
Was the metallic red one?
Yes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the underwater
Everybody has
one.
that one. Yep.
And so I always, like to document things growing up. But then I went to a yard sale and I found a D50, Nikon D50.
Nice.
Started playing with it, got a little bit better, did aperture, did all the,
Right.
did a little bit of YouTube University.
All the priority modes.
All the priority modes.
There you go.
And then started to get fancy with a guy that used to race motorcycles, which now is my husband.
Nice.
And so we would go all over. He was a race. He raced motorcycles, and we would go to like Little Tally and at Road Atlanta and all these places,
very
and I would
nice.
capture him because why
So he's
not?
on super bikes. He's not dirt bikes.
Super bikes.
Nice.
Yeah.
The big boys.
And
Wow.
so, and it's exceptionally hard to catch those in frame with everything else.
Yeah.
So I got pretty good at it.
He's one of those knee down on the ground guys.
Yeah,
Wow.
dragon. He's a dragger.
There we go.
Nice.
So I caught that. I got a better lens. I got a better camera. We all have those framed around our house. And so it just kind of grew from there. So then I had like our friends say, hey, can you take our baby photos? Can you take our family photos? Can you take our wedding photos?
Right.
So when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had to be on bed rest. I learned a little bit more. And so I never went back to work after that. And it just kind of turned into what it is now.
Yeah.
So this is my full-time job, has been for 6 years.
Nice.
I absolutely love the fact that we go from supermoto GP racing to baby photography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So like, honestly, your progression is very similar to a lot of photographers.
Yes.
You end up, most people end up just starting with a camera.
Yep.
With a desire to take photos.
Yes.
You start taking photos of literally anything and everything. You then find like the first few things that
you
start to pay you, right, a little bit.
Yeah.
Or that you find great passion in. And it sounds like yours was Supercross, which is so...
MotoGP.
Yeah.
Wait.
Please get it correct.
Superbike. What did I
say
Supercross is
wrong?
dirt bikes.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Superbikes.
Sorry.
MotoGP.
Okay, sorry. You were photographing very fast-moving
There you go.
motorcycles.
You clearly never played Gran Turismo.
No. So, wow, what a derailment.
Sorry.
All I was trying to say is that you found something that you enjoyed, and the pursuit of being good at it caused you to explore, learn, and then naturally, as you get better, people then start asking you to do all these other things.
Do it for dollars.
Do it for dollars.
Ask you to do it for dollars.
And so now you are full-time with it.
I am.
And that's, I don't know, like that right there to me is should be encouragement that I had a very similar background. I was in IT, but I always had the shutter bug and slowly started to be able to make it a profession.
Yeah.
I think that's really difficult for people starting out. Like even if you desire right out of the gate to make it a job of sorts, that's really hard.
Yeah.
Right.
But a safer route is to do it, sort of on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And build it.
And I didn't, probably 2 full years, didn't make $1.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's just practice. I still creative projects and things I just really want to do.
Right.
I don't want to get paid for those. Those
Yeah.
are it's just extras.
Yeah.
And so, because we all have creative things that get us going and even working here lately with other photographers in our town, just doing creative things because we really need to fill that cup.
Yeah.
So
And I want to talk about that here in a little bit, but I do want to, you mentioned something very important. I think that this is something that in our industry, I'm not going to say it's tough for people to latch onto, but I do think that a beginning photographer, and myself included, it's tough at times to imagine doing it for free for that long. But there is high importance, in my opinion, in doing that. Well, for even 2 years. You said you shot free for 2 years. I shot free for dang near 2 years. I think you shot, for 2 or so years free as well, Captain. There's so much learning to do. And I think that it's something that I want to encourage new people to do first and foremost is go shoot anything and everything that you can, knowing that you may not make a dime from it, but by golly, you're going to be honing some skills.
I think that's tough though. Right. I mean, it's a bit of an investment. Gear's expensive, right? So you immediately, spend $2,000 easy. And you're like, gosh, I need to start replenishing that, right? I need to recoup this because I did buy it as a bit of an investment. But, we've talked about this a lot, and it's a difficult thing because you have just spent money. You do want to recoup it in some facet, but there's something to be said for, essentially paying your dues, right? You learn so much with all of that free work that, you're not making $1 with it, but the lessons that you learned, that's what ultimately affords you to be able to charge.
Well, what would you say were the biggest lessons that you learned in your journey? Because I think the journey is interesting because you literally went from motorcycle racing to babies to family. I'd say you've probably done some graduations as well.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything. So in that 2 years of discovery, what were some of the biggest takeaways that you had from doing that?
Really just one big thing too is so I do pictures for you or take pictures for you, you tell your friends. Yeah. So that's a big thing too. Like in our business, people communicating with each other is very important.
Networking,
People
absolutely.
talk is way more important than any kind of marketing.
Right. The referral is hands down the best thing.
Yeah. And so that was a big thing, like to make sure that I'm doing a quality job for this person and not just kind of whatever. And so doing a quality job and then they tell their friends and they tell their friends and the same thing with motorcycles. I would take photos for my husband, but then I'd have a team come and they would say, hey, can you take our team photos or whatever? And they were like, oh, we'll buy your dinner. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe it wasn't for free all the way, but still, it was just nice.
Well, but you're not openly advertising a cost,
A charged
Right.
session.
a charge to
Right.
your work, which again, I think that's so important because you are in those first, I'm just going to call it, for you, it was 2 years. For us, it was 2 years. In those first 2 years, I didn't have the confidence to charge anything because I didn't know what I liked. I
Right.
didn't know what my style was. I had no actual, look.
Right.
Or style, as we'll say. So, like, there's so many things that I learned in those 2 years, and so many things that we learn very early on in photography and any craft for that matter that I do. I believe it's so important to take those lessons really until you're ready.
Yeah.
Ready to start charging whatever you want to charge at that
Oh
point in
gosh, I
time.
mean, during that learning process, though, think about all the technical mistakes you made. Think
Yeah.
about, so it is typically a journey from, I'll call it auto to manual.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to shoot manual, but like
Right.
to move into a priority mode even,
Yeah.
you've got to have learned a few things about that triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And raw image. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Using raw.
editing, yeah.
Absolutely. So
That
like,
raw.
oh, well, I joked several episodes ago, we bashed some of our early work. So
Listen, I bashed work from yesterday.
I
So
did
no,
too.
that's
I did too.
true. I think that's the curse of being a creative.
It
Like you
is.
hate the thing you
It is.
created 3 days ago that at one point you thought was good. But the raw images, yeah, absolutely. I was so afraid to push raw images when I first flipped that switch from JPEG to raw because JPEG's already got a lot of contrast and saturation baked
Right.
in, right? It's already much closer to a finished
Yeah.
look. Whereas raw, just a daggone raw output of the sensor, it's flat. And so I was always afraid to push it because if I would ever toggle the before and after in Lightroom, I'm like, gosh, I've moved this so far.
Yep.
Like I can't do any more to it.
Right.
And then now that I look back at a lot of those images, I was like, oh, wow, I had so much more to push. Like this was not a finished photo in my early work when I first started with RAW. Like I had a lot more work that I could have done to this, which is actually a really cool topic. And I posted on Threads the other day, and so I finally found these images that I took from Washington, D.C. in 2017.
Are you finally going to re-edit them?
I found the raw images. I'm going to re-edit them. Now, obviously, I can't change the composition. I can't change the time of day. All of those things, that's a done deal.
Right.
But I am interested to see with the advancements in tech, with my hopefully skill advancements,
Right.
style changes, all those things. I'm anxious to see how I process those images now, because the images that I see all the time from that trip, they're basically a really polished JPEG. Now they were raw, but because of my editing style, being afraid to push it into a style, they're basically just they're just really clean, right?
Right.
But they're not like there's nothing Jared about it.
Right.
So
You're
yeah.
afraid to push it. Hey, real quick request. Now that you have pulled those DC images, can we also get you to finally pull, you know where I'm going with this, Montana Jared with no beard?
No.
No, daggone it. I want
Well, let me
Montana Jared
rephrase
so
that.
bad.
The answer to that question is simple. You said, can I? The answer is yes to that. Will I? The answer is probably no to that.
I'm going to go on record and tell you this because this is new information to you as of this second. I have personal requests from our massive, massive audience to get Jared in Montana form.
Listen, I've heard one request, and if it's the same request in Cam, then it's not enough. It's
Dang it,
not
it's
enough to
Cam.
move the needle. Not
It's
enough
Cam.
to move the needle.
Daggone it.
So you transitioned. You mentioned walking through the priority modes. Obviously, you moved into manual. Then you also did raw. What were some of your early stage? Like what were you slower to master, so to speak? Was it in the editing side of things where you found yourself really having to work at, or what was it?
Yes, and I don't particularly love editing even now. Like I
Really?
can shoot, and I'll tell you, I mean, I'm behind now just because I've shot so much. I haven't had time to sit down and edit.
Yeah.
But I low key dread it a little bit. Just
So it's
Wow.
daunting for you.
yeah, it's such a daunting task.
You sound like me on the video side of things.
It's just
I love the process. Oh, Scott, I just spit. I love the process of shooting so much.
right.
But editing for me it's daunting. So daunting.
And I don't I don't do that much editing.
Right.
But it's just a lot
Why
of
is it
mine's-
daunting for you though?
Well, a lot of mine's skin. So,
Right.
it's,
okay.
you're
You're having to do a lot of touch ups.
yes.
And stuff like
well,
that.
and just skin smoothing and
Yeah.
Smoothing,
and,
skin tones.
and moving.
Which is actually, that is time consuming. That's
yes.
true. That's
Which I give my clients a lot of, here's the list. Do
Yeah.
not do these things, do these things, so
Yeah.
they know exactly what they're walking into. This particular studio casts orange. And so
Okay.
you're not allowed to spray tan here,
Right.
just things like that. Whereas, my graduation clients are mostly outside.
Yeah.
And so I'm
Right.
So
literally
spray tan
going
all you want.
Yeah. So I'm going from, this to that. And so I don't know, sitting down for hours and editing to me is you might as well shoot me in the foot. I don't know.
Dang.
Sounds like me on the video
I
side.
thoroughly enjoy editing photos.
Photos.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a different topic, editing video. But like to me, that's where there are tons of things that you've got to get right on location, the day of, in camera. You've got to get a lot of those things right. But once you've done it a few times, you that becomes a little easier with every single time. But for me, the edit is where you get that opportunity to really, really draw the viewer to your subject or whatever. Like that's where you really get a craft and put your style.
Well, you're
into it.
painting at that point in time.
So let me put this out there. When I have clients, and this is something I've learned over the last couple of years, and I put it into play with my mentor, she went through the process and told me basically because I use IPS, I show my clients unedited photos. So
Really?
when they leave here,
Wow.
they leave here for an hour for lunch. I go up, eat my lunch, scarf it down, and then I show them unedited photos. I'm showing them photos as we go, so
Sure.
they feel like we're doing something, so they
Yeah.
feel like they're accomplishing
Yeah,
something.
they feel like they've got progress.
But when I go up there and I just pick the best of each set or whatever, I'm showing them just completely raw photos.
Yeah.
I've actually heard of that process.
I
And
think
I
that
love
makes
it.
sense
Yeah.
though.
I love it.
Specifically with
Then you don't have to cull.
No.
You don't have to cull. You know exactly what you're going to edit for the final delivery.
Right. And they know exactly what they're going to get.
Yeah.
They know. And when I sit down and I tell them, okay, so what we're looking at here is your pose, your facial expression, things you can't change.
Right.
Things that you can't
Right.
change because I've already got the settings right here.
Right.
I've already got the settings right.
Yeah, you
in
know
the
what you can
studio.
control.
Yeah. And it's, day to day.
Yeah, it's easy
Right.
for you.
So, and people are often surprised about that because I'm like, this is not edited photo, but I don't do. I mean, it's not amazing what I do,
Right.
Right.
as far as editing goes. It's just
I think
that daunting
so. I
task.
think too, though. I think that makes complete sense specifically for the style of photography that you do.
Yeah.
right,
Because there is such a mental aspect of that.
right,
I feel like confidence is a very big thing with what you do.
yeah,
I could
Yeah.
very well definitely see you showing the day of. I feel like that could be very confidence instilling.
Well, too, because you don't want people in this particular setting to leave saying, "Man, did I do okay?
Yeah, did I do
Yeah,
what
you,
I was
yeah, it's
supposed
just a big
to?
question
Yeah.
mark.
And I don't want that.
No.
Nobody wants that. And
No.
so that's a huge learning curve.
Right.
A huge learning curve. When my mentor told me that's what we do, and she walked me through, I spent a whole week with her down in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Nice.
And she went through and told me that process, and I did that. Life changing.
Yes. Rad.
Absolute life changing.
Well, so that I do that periodically with portrait work, and it's more of like a client by client basis. If I can tell that someone is like in a shell, so to speak,
Yeah.
it's like, you know what, they need to see themselves.
Yeah,
here.
they need
like,
to
they
see
need
they're
to
doing
see that
good.
this is a good
Yeah.
photo because I know mentally they're like a wreck right now.
Yeah. And most of my clients I always tell
There's
this
a
is what I
barrier
say.
that you've got to break as a photographer.
First 10
Yeah.
minutes
Absolutely.
is garbage. I
Yeah.
always they walk
Those are
over
my
here.
throwaways.
I say the first 10 minutes are garbage. Doesn't matter what face you make, what we do.
Yep.
They're garbage.
Yes.
We're just warming up.
And you can tell when you're going through and you're looking, you can tell when they get comfortable.
When they
Yes.
start to make that shift.
You break that barrier down, and that's a really good way. I didn't even consider that as an option. It's funny though. That's a polarizing topic on the deliverable side.
Yeah.
Do you hand out your raw images? And there's not a right or wrong answer.
Well,
I'm
she's
not
not
gonna-
handing them out. She's just viewing
Right.
with them.
That's
Yeah.
completely different,
Yeah.
but that's a tactic to instill confidence, to
Yeah.
show like, look, this is looking good.
Yeah.
Right.
You're doing good. You're doing the
You're
doing
doing
the part.
great.
Yeah.
You're doing the thing.
That makes complete sense. So
Would I ever deliver raws? Absolutely not. Ever.
No,
Never.
no. And see, that's where like somebody posed the comment on Threads the other day.
I remember this one.
He said, and the person was like, "Photographers, how come y'all are so hesitant to hand out your raw images?" And I was like,
for obvious reasons.
Well, he was not saying like, he wasn't saying like give them away, like even to deliver them for a charge, right?
Yeah. Why do you not deliver your raw images?
And I'm like, whoa. And I commented, I threw my 2 pennies in there. I was like, look, aside from them being like super flat, first off, to me, they don't reflect a finished work at all.
Yeah, they're not you.
And they're obviously not, they're also not me because,
they're not Jared.
I mean, you think of, and come to find out, he replied to me and it was, I finally got to the bottom of it. He replied and he said, "No, man, a lot of my clients like my raw images so much they don't even like me to edit them." And I was like, whoa, I'm so confused. How do they like
I don't think
Come
so.
to find out, he specifically was shooting JPEG, but he was considering it raw because it was untouched.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Right.
He
So
wasn't
there was a
editing
misconception. I was like, now that makes sense. You
It's
could,
different.
you could
we can
like-
work with that.
You
We can
could
work with
see
that.
like a studio JPEG and be like, yeah, this looks great. Don't bother about
It's
it.
just a terminology thing.
It's terminology.
Yeah.
Raw, like true RAW. No, absolutely not. You know,
Which you mentioned in a YouTube video.
yeah. Well, to me, it's like I don't want someone to get that and not know what to do with it because I know how daunting it is to get a raw image, especially when you have never dealt with a raw image, to get it to a finished place.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's an interesting topic.
Or a printable place.
Yeah, or a printable
Like,
place,
I mean,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, we want to print them. If they're family photos or whatever, we want
Right,
to
right.
print them. You're not going to print them.
Also, please, for the love of Jesus, don't print them at Walgreens.
Oh, please.
Listen, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
That's a whole
but
nother
please
topic.
don't go to.
Like,
I denounce Walgreens and their
That's-
photo
Me
lab.
too.
That's such a difficult sell though. Like it's like okay,
It's
well,
not
why
if you
are
see
your-
the difference.
Why are your prints, 3-4 times what it cost? Even north of that, even in some cases, what I could print it for at Walgreens. It's like, listen, sweetheart, there's a difference.
There is a massive
I
difference.
keep it up in my office. I keep different companies
Yes.
like
Oh,
different labs even.
Walgreens, Sam's Club, NPIX. Like
Yeah.
we go down
Walmart.
the way. Professional
I'll
lab.
also say this. I'll be the devil's advocate right now. A print is still better than no print.
Agreed.
I will say that.
100%.
I will say that.
Print
because
your photos.
Print that photo. Like there
Print
is
your
something
photos.
to it. Like,
That hurts.
but it's true. It is true. Now,
That hurts.
if you really want to print, like you need to. It's
You got
not
3
gonna be
people
as
right
cheap as
here that you
Walgreens.
can consult with. We will give you a good lab to go to.
Oh my gosh!
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Or labs. I'll give you choices.
Yeah,
Just anything.
absolutely. Go shop the
godforsaken
rates.
Walgreens.
But just it's so much better, and I think it's truly one of those things where unless you literally have the same photo like side by side,
Yeah.
that might be what we have to do.
Sorry,
right?
that
Is
was
explain.
It's a great idea.
It's like, look, there's just a
Which
there's
I
just a
have. I mean,
difference.
we had a recent client who reached out and said, "Hey, when I print these at Walgreens, they look different than what you delivered." I'm like, "Well, there's a reason."
Yeah.
And I want you to use a reputable lab,
Right.
For that reason. Sorry, that was a rabbit hole, but you triggered my PTSD.
Yeah.
It's a whole
Well,
thing.
actually, you
It's a
triggered my
whole
PTSD
thing.
because you said print, and I was
Listen.
like, "Oh gosh."
Listen, getting back out of the rabbit hole, slightly back on topic. I know you have traveled a lot
Yeah.
with photography. Did you ever, as the nurse who just had a camera, started taking pictures of motorcycles moving really quickly? I'm not even going to attempt to say which one it was.
MotoGP.
MotoGP. Did you ever imagine where photography might take you?
Absolutely not. Usually halfway in a session, and I'm discussing, talking to my clients. I'm like, I never would have thought I was here. I would have never been here. Ever.
Right.
It's usually as I'm like adjusting a hair or whatever, and I'm like, I never really thought I would. I just appreciate you being here because you're
Absolutely.
the reason I'm here.
Yes.
And so I never would have thought this, but then it just happened, and it was the time where it was just filling my calendar, like
Right.
And now I've knock on wood, gotten really lucky that I shoot Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays, and I'm off on weekends for the most part. I'm
that's rad.
traveling out of the country, I never would have thought I would have been here.
Yeah.
And when I told my mom I was not going to nurse anymore, she was like, "You're gonna do what?
Yeah, you're gonna do that little camera thing.
You're gonna do that?"
I love it when people say that little camera thing.
I haven't gotten that one
Your
yet.
camera
but
takes such good photos.
I know I get that one. That one burns me up. And I know
iPhone
they
could
mean
take
well.
that.
I know they mostly mean well. That they mean it as a compliment, but it's just the actual phrasing is off.
It's off. So on the whole journey topic right now, because we're talking about Jennifer's photo journey. Obviously, we started with MotoGP, moved to families, graduations, all that good stuff, and to where you are today. So Jared just asked you, did you ever think that it would get you to where you are? I want to kind of let the cat out of the bag. So, like, you are a very specific style of photography.
Yes, I am a boudoir photographer.
What led you to that?
90%. 90%.
Not only are you boudoir, you are destination boudoir,
Correct.
which is even
As
more
of
mind-boggling and specific.
2024?
Nice.
Well, not really, because I've been doing it for years. I do beach sessions twice a year.
So I've asked you now from MotoGP to families and babies. So then how do we go from MotoGP to families and babies to boudoir?
So,
how do we get there?
What led you there?
So I was gifted by my husband a mini session.
Okay.
During my postpartum
Gotcha.
problem, like I had real bad postpartum. He gifted it to me. So this was a photographer up in Abingdon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And went to the session. I'll be real honest, and I don't know how gory you want me to get here, but like I threw up 5 times on the way there, turned
wow.
around 3 times, called her, told her I wasn't coming.
Okay. That's like medium gore, so that's okay.
You know, all the things. Like it was just a lot.
It's intimidating.
It was so much. But then 15 minutes, like super, I was in it, ready to go. And it was not like, it wasn't scantily clad or anything. It was just river, and I had a dress, and, like I felt amazing.
Right.
I felt like every single woman should feel. And I was like, I could do this. I could do this for my clients right now.
Right.
And so I started to research, like, does anybody in this area do that? Not really.
Yeah.
I looked at different mentorships. I invested in a mentorship. It was very expensive. It was worth every penny.
We've done the same.
I'm going to come back to that. Keep going.
Yeah.
And spent a week down in South Carolina, to which I still communicate with her. It's been 6 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
And still communicate with her, still get tips from her.
Nice.
And I've just really grown, and it was just a little bit at the time, and then it just moved to like 90%. I say 90% because I still do headshots while they're here. They
right.
get hair and makeup done.
Right.
Everybody needs a headshot,
Nice.
so
They
you
do.
get that while you're here.
Very
a lot
cool.
of times.
2 for 1.
But then I also do the creative things too. Like I have these families that have been coming to me forever.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful for that.
Absolutely.
And so they just want cohesive pictures.
Yeah.
And so I still
You
do
still do
those.
some family stuff.
Yeah.
Which is cool too. But I think on the boudoir specifically, because we've actually had conversations too about your mission with it, and
have a nonprofit.
yeah, so you have a nonprofit, and we've talked about that before, but I love the mission that you have with the nonprofit side of things. Can you explain a little bit to our audience that side of even your business too? Because I find that fascinating, what you're doing for women who are needing that boost that you give.
So, and this came along. So it's basically a breast cancer nonprofit, and it's a journey of documenting their process, and they could be anywhere in the process. So basically, I've had a couple of different clients come in there say, "Hey, I was just diagnosed. I would like to take a before session, a middle of the road session. When I finish, I've had clients that have not finished, and it's sad. But I've had people that have come through and they didn't make it through in their journey.
Right.
I have a lady right now that's in her 60s that has been documenting through her whole process, her double mastectomy, all the things, and she just wants to be able to come out on the end and say, "Hey, I made it, and this is what all I went through."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, they come in and they can get down as raw or however they authentic as they want to be, and then at the end they can be as glammed up as they want to be.
Yeah.
And I basically just make them a book.
Nice.
And so they get to go through and pick their images
Right.
and figure out what they're doing. But also the secondary part of the journey is, so like one of my clients had a double mastectomy, and she was missing a part of womanhood, and she wanted prosthetic, I don't know, can we say nipples?
Sure. I mean,
This
isn't radio.
She lost that.
Yeah.
She didn't have, she didn't have areolas. And
Right.
so I purchased her some because felt dewomanized.
Right.
She didn't feel feminine. And so that was something that my nonprofit provided for her.
That's awesome.
Other things was, the chemo messed up her fingernails. Like she had really rigid fingernails and they were very brittle. And so I paid for her to go a couple times for her nails to be done.
Yeah.
And so, it's just providing a service that is, really underrated or underestimated or something that they just feel like they need and that they do need. And so it's just empowering because I typically take 4 clients a year and I have 2 already this year.
Nice.
Ideally, I would like to be able to present something to the breast cancer center or the cancer center in itself to say, this is what I provide.
Right.
Within reason. And I have a board to help me decide. And so that just came along because I had a couple of people that were interested in it and I was like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And of course I don't charge them and it's part of the nonprofit.
Oh, and I love your heart with it because cancer has affected my family very heavily, at least on my father's side. My grandmother died from it. My dad, he's currently in remission, but there's a beauty in documenting that process, I believe. I wish, back when my dad was first diagnosed, that I would have done a better job at documenting even his process, because I remember all the trips down to Vanderbilt. I remember some of the darker times that even my dad had, and now that we are on the quote other side of it, for now, like I visually have those in my brain.
Yeah.
But there's also things that I'm like, man, if I would have had the forethought to document those things, it would just make it. I hate to say special, because I don't think that a terrible disease can be special, but it can show a great outcome and a good positive light whenever somebody does make it through that. So I love your heart on that specific mission with what you do.
Well, I think that even transcends like just specifically into photography though.
Yeah.
Like I cannot. I'm gonna understate this, but because I can't state it properly. But you are literally freezing a moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Good or bad.
But you're freezing a moment, and hopefully we all keep our memories, all of these things, and you're gonna remember it. But like, there's something to be said for literally having that photo.
Yeah.
As the vivid memory of that moment. Yeah. Like you see details in the photo that may have been blurred through the sands of time.
So my most current client has been in, she literally has left the hospital, had drains come in, and I would show her the back of the camera and she just cried because she was like, that's what I look like. Yeah. She hadn't even seen herself yet. Right. She hasn't even put, she just put her clothes on and come over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's very difficult seeing these clients in that state.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, yes, I have clients that are in various different states as far as their mental, where they are.
Yeah.
But it hits different. It's just different. They don't,
they
don't see themselves on that.
Yeah.
On that side. And it does hurt. And, every time she's come in, she's just said, I still can't believe that I'm having to go through this or I'm doing this or that I've already made it this far. That's one of the biggest things I've heard lately is I cannot believe I've already made it this far.
Right.
I didn't think I was going to make it this far. And so we've got now almost a year worth
of documentation
of
awesome.
Different things. And sometimes she just comes in and she's like, the last time she just came in and she wanted to sit in the chair and look out the window because she was just pondering like all of the things. It has nothing to do with any kind of, it's just where she's at.
I'd say that's part of her story.
Yeah.
That's part of the story of her journey.
Yeah. That's so like, again, you're doing a very specific mission there. I guess that to generalize just the importance of photography and why I feel so passionate about photography, you've got to take the photo.
Yeah.
You've got to take the photo. I don't know anybody who has ever regretted taking the photo.
No.
Never.
Whatever it is, family vacation, whatever. Like, take the photo because you don't know, like, what that's going to be 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, it truly, it could be the last time somebody's ever in that
I was
photo.
going to say, you don't know who's going to be and
literally
who's not
don't.
going to be.
Absolutely.
Still here.
Like my
whenever you look
family,
back on it.
we do yearly apple butter.
Yep.
And I know at some point the photos that I'm taking and annoying everybody to death
Yep.
with, at some point someone's not going to be in it the next year.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we've all seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen that. You know, I've lost grandparents.
Yes.
We've lost friends, and it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to have that next year where you're like, I wish so and so was in this photo.
Yeah.
They were in that last year, or
Or I wish I would have
whatever.
taken more photos
Yes.
Yeah.
of so and so.
Again, it's usually the inverse that
It
you
is.
regret. So
It
just
is.
take the photo.
Well, and like we go on vacations, and I make a point to like find a photographer there
Yeah.
and do the things, because when are we going to be wherever again? Or
Yeah.
we try to travel, and I can't be in the picture, and like I can't take both.
So you're pretty smart in that. I'm the one that brings like 67 cameras with me, and then we have to like tripod one group shot, and that's the only shot that I'm in the whole vacation.
Well, it's funny. I always joke with my wife because I take all kinds of photos, obviously, and by taking them, you're rarely in them.
Yeah.
I joke with her all the time. I'm like, listen, if I ever pass, like you've got great solo family album photos, or if we get divorced or whatever, like. You've still got all the photos of just you and the kids.
Yeah, to
I
have
joke
that.
with her.
Yeah.
I
Me
joke
and Sarah
with her.
have a running joke. She always gets a picture with her and the kids. I call that her divorce picture.
Just in
of the trip.
case,
Yeah.
you never know. Hey, as someone who was divorced, you need
You
those
never know.
things.
You
need
never
those
know.
things.
See, I don't know. It cracks me up. But honestly, this is a really good segue to basically kind of what I would love for the entire second piece to be here.